what's crazy is I was out last night doing karaoke and I had that same shirt on. I'm like, hey man, how many years ago I got that shirt on right
Oh
here?
man, you gotta get a new shirt. We gotta get us a new wardrobe.
You know what I'm saying? Dang, I gotta figure it all out. I gotta figure it all out. So what's up, man? How you doing?
Man, we in here. I'm excited for this conversation we're gonna have today. I think it's gonna be good and impactful for many, 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 many people out there today.
I think so. I think what's interesting is I was talking to some of my teammates and they were sharing with me about youth in relationships and
Yeah.
really wanting to or using this new term toxic or whatever.
Okay.
I was kind of like, huh. And then it was interesting when we went out to dinner the other night. Your sister
Yeah.
kind of threw that word out there too. Not necessarily saying she was in one, but
Right.
that or messing with that, but that the young people are talking about that. So I was like, you know what, you and I should talk about this because we've seen a lot. Saying we're two men,
Yeah.
and thought it would be cool to see, get your perspective on it and what you're hearing out there, and I can share a little bit of mine. So, but yeah, I agree. I think it'll be interesting to hear your take on it too.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk about it. And if you didn't catch the gist for the listener here, we're going to be talking about toxic relationships today. And I think we're going to focus on, like you said, our experiences and what we've seen or what we went through and maybe what an ideal relationship should look like versus what they are currently looking like. So I'm excited to talk. So let's get into it. So you told me V or our sister started talking about toxic relationships. What was the context that she was talking about it?
No, she was. I forget what the conversation was. I think she was looking at TikTok or something, and just said that like people are using that term, being in toxic relationships, and it's kind of a trend or whatever. I don't know. I
Yeah,
think a lot of young people. I probably should have done a little bit more research on it before coming here, but as far as like where they're seeing that at, but it's all on social media, and people are like, "I'm toxic. I'm in a toxic relationship. I want toxicity. This, that, and the other."
mm,
And so I don't know, man. I want to kind of clap back at that because I don't think that's a good look for young people to be even messing around with or whatever. So she had just brought it up, but it
right.
reconfirmed again what some of my teammates were telling me that young people are using that term, and so yeah, I was just like, huh, be interesting. Have you been hearing young people out there using the same thing, or what's good?
Yeah, no, big time. It's the same thing, but also it was more so like I think my junior years when that term started being used a little bit more as well. It's just what toxic relationships were and it being promoted in media and all that craziness, right? So I think what toxic relationships is when I hear that phrase or that word, it's like um treating others poorly, meaning they're not respecting each other's boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
They're acting out of jealousy, cheating. Like we're talking about romantic relationships, right?
Yeah.
But in this podcast episode right now, we'll be talking more about romantic, but also talking about the friendship. But it's also like it's just strange. It's like just acting out of jealousy and trying to cheat on other people and it's just weird. It's just a weird climate to be in.
So is what you're saying that even though they're using that term toxic relationships, that that's what they want? Because that's kind of what I heard from
Yeah,
my peers or teammates. They were saying that that's what people want to be in
right, right,
is a toxic relationship, or yeah, my relationship is toxic and I'm okay with that. Is that
right.
is that the perspective that you're hearing or had seen or?
Yeah, I'm hearing that big time, and it's also like it's kind of like the whole sentiment of nice guys finish last, and like some of these
Mhm.
nice guys out here are like, well, they didn't want to be with me because I was treating them too nice or I was treating them too well, and they wanted somebody to, call them names, or they wanted somebody to like leave them high and dry, and like want to have them chase after them, or like it's just weird.
Yeah, I think it is weird that, and I think what's even more weird is that we're allowing that to slide
Yeah,
and make it seem as if though it's okay, because I think that's a slippery slope You know what I mean? When it comes to that, because um, I think you can begin to slide into, emotional abuse, physical abuse,
Yeah,
and just mistreating people in general is wrong, right? And so I think we need to help educate and re-educate, or even just educate from the get
I agree.
these young men, especially, I want to say,
Yeah.
um, in the way that they're playing these games and whatnot, because it's dangerous. It's extremely dangerous for women to be engaged and young girls engage with these type of cats that
Mhm.
believe in this toxicity. Um, and I think it's bad for them just mentally uh,
Right.
to be rolling like that. So did you ever have any toxic, we'll use that term now, but we're gonna
Right.
watch it. But yeah, toxic situation, or because you were talking about the good guy thing.
Right. Well, I don't think I ever experienced like an unhealthy relationship before, so to speak, like in that kind of realm. I will say though, like middle school years, I was very infatuated with one person, and that kind of was like that's a whole nother topic though. I feel like just because we gotta talk about when you're growing up and being a middle schooler and not making somebody the source of happiness and all this stuff, right? That's one of the things that can lead to these toxic behaviors though, for sure. I think we should talk about it, is that I was infatuated with one girl. I was obsessed. I was like, "Yo, this is somebody I want to be with," and I'm seventh grade. What? Like I'm I'm
Yeah,
like 12, and I'm like thinking about this is it. Like this is the person I want to be with, and they ended up like treating me poorly. You know what I mean? And for me, it was like I was blind to it because I was so infatuated, right?
right.
And I didn't know that I was being mistreated, even though I had a little like idea of that I was being mistreated. I didn't know, I didn't care, right? Because I was like, oh, this is my person, like da da da, like they can do everything and they still look good to me, right?
Right, right, right,
And I
right.
feel like that's what a lot of young women are going through right now. Is the infatuation piece? Is that they're like, oh, but when they're good, they're really good, and they do all this stuff really
Mhm.
nice. Just occasionally they'll do these things, and it's okay, because not
Right,
every they'll say not every relationship's perfect. So like this is the things I got to go through. And it's like, bro, what? Like now being older and really having healthy relationships is like that's not how you should be treated. You know what I mean?
right,
Like
right.
that's not normal in a relationship.
Well, I think the other piece of it, in addition to all that, is the idea of what is a good relationship, right? It's really interesting too, and I think it starts young. I've been running into situations with young men, middle school and even freshmen, sophomores, where they don't know how to flirt or how to get a person that they're attracted to's attention
Mhm.
without doing it negatively,
Right.
um, by doing the name calling or the pushing or throwing balls at and I'm going to say girls.
Right.
I'm looking at it from the standpoint of guy girl, um,
Mhm.
for the sake of this conversation. But
Right.
yeah, the guys are throwing balls at these girls, and they don't realize that they're hurting them. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
And they're thinking that that's okay, but underlying all of that is really that they kind of got like a little crush and don't know how to really, approach them, and they're getting a reaction and they like that. But what bothers me about that, even though some may say that that's innocent, the problem is that's exactly how it starts, with them doing that type of behavior. And
Mhm.
then later it manifests into something more, as far as a power dynamic, right? And
Right.
feeling that they have power over this young person that they may be attracted to. And that carries out and plays out possibly
Mhm.
in their later years, and being a person who puts their hands on women.
Right.
So I think we got to figure out how to, those of you guys listening to this podcast, talk with your young people
Mhm.
and show them how they show interest. The problem is, right, is there's this other side of it though, when you do like somebody and they may not like you back.
Right, that fear of rejection, that's what we call that.
Yeah, right. That can hurt, right? I
Right.
mean, that can make you feel definitely some type of way. And then you're like, so it's easier to throw the ball. It's easier to, name call. It's easier to, And then if they kind of come along, and on the flip side, I don't know, maybe we can get some young women to, jump in on this or, respond.
Yeah.
Is that I think the bad part too is how young women respond to that in a
Mhm.
positive way.
Yeah.
So it reinforces that behavior of that young man and makes it seem as if though it's okay.
Right.
So I think we need to empower our women, young women, as they're coming up also to be like, no, we're not going to tolerate that.
Yeah.
And if they need to talk to a caring adult about
Mhm.
the situation, they should do that. If they need to talk to a counselor to say, hey, these guys are throwing balls at us on the, saying on the in the yard or whatever.
Right. He said in the yard like they're in jail.
Sometimes
A
feel like
playground.
that, I mean, I think that's what it's about. And I think one of the things that people will realize as you and I continue to talk is it's really about being able to have conversations, right,
Right.
with people in your life that care for you, um,
Right.
to because they gotta get taught. So
It's like, look, I love what you're saying because you're alluding to it, but I really want to say that maybe these youth never seen what
yeah,
healthy relationships actually look like, right? When we think about it, it goes deeper than just like they don't know how to handle that emotion, but they do know because they see it from a family member or relative, and they're in like an unhealthy relationship, and they see like when they have disagreements, it's like it can be physical or it can be emotionally abusive,
and
right?
verbally
Yeah,
too, right?
exactly. So that's where they get that from. It's like, oh well, my parents do this or my grandparents do this, so it's normal, right? And like me and you are sitting here saying like these youth right now, if you are listening, it's not normal to be cussing out your crush. Like it's not
No,
normal to be physically hitting your crush, whether with a ball or with your fit. Like just there's ways to go about it and learn how to flirt, and especially as like a young man. It's dangerous territory to be in, right? When you don't learn how to cope or know how to handle those emotions and learn how to get a young woman's attention in a respectful, meaningful way. You know.
yeah, I agree. I think the other thing is that what makes me nervous a little bit about TikTok, and again, I should have jumped on and tried to find some um, to speak a little bit more specifically to it. But if this is what's rolling around on social media, specifically TikTok,
Yeah,
and young people are seeing this and thinking that it's okay, that's not good. And this alludes to also a little bit where I get a little frustrated. And I'm mature, I'm seasoned. You know what I'm saying? Been in the game
right.
for a little bit, but is a lot of some of these TV shows that young people be watching, I
Yeah,
think also impacts how they think like they should behave. So all of the Housewives TV shows,
for sure. The
all of them,
Kardashians.
from the white to the black to the
Yeah,
whatever, right? And the way that they behave and public at restaurants, throwing water on people,
yeah, yeah.
slapping each other, just name calling. That is not healthy. Even like you were saying, we're talking about romantic, but even in your friendships, like that
Right.
that's not good, yo. It's like, and I'm here to tell young men specifically, because I mean, and if women are listening to this and they have, you're caring for a young man, your son, nephew, whatever, cousin, um, that's not right.
Right.
Not right. It's not
Mm-mm.
right at all, and should not be tolerated and or accepted. Um, so talking about toxicity, right?
Right.
Um, a lot of people don't know, and I will share this with them, is um, my my aunt did some time in prison
Mhm.
because she killed her husband.
Right.
And the reason that she killed him was because one night she had enough of her, hands being put on her, and
Mhm.
she pulled the trigger, and she had to do 7 years for that. And so, ever since I've heard that story, ever since I was young, and my dad sat me down and talked to me about, respecting women, never putting your hands on them. That's just, I mean, I don't necessarily condone
Mm,
what she did,
for
but
sure. I know.
I'm with her.
But you have empathy. You can understand why it got to that point and why she felt that was the only way to handle that situation right then and there, right?
And that's what we don't want anybody else out there to go through. So this was like in the 70s, I believe.
Okay.
So, but the way things play out nowadays would be totally different. So, in wanting to have this conversation was to share with young people that everybody has a limit.
Right.
And when you're, degrading somebody verbally, emotionally, physically, people will react sometimes in not so positive ways. And
Right.
now both of you are in a situation that's not plausible. You know what I'm saying?
Right. It's hard to come back from those situations, right?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I think I'd want to share also, man, is like, you know, you're not soft. I mean, you mentioned earlier, the good guys come in last, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think we got to be okay with being the nice guys. And I know there's gonna be some cats out here, right? They're gonna be like, nah, man, I can't be soft like that. I can't get played. But go ahead, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say because right now what we're doing with this podcast right now is we're going against the grain of what's being taught on TikTok about uh men philosophy right now. Like one thing that I'm seeing pushed on like middle schoolers and high schoolers is that you got to be a high value man. Like don't let these women treat you poorly. Don't let these women do da 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 right. All these crazy things, and it's like, yo, what are we teaching our youth? Like we got to be teaching them that hey, rejection is okay. Like that's how you learn from that's how you learn. And I'm not gonna sit here and be like, oh, the only worst thing they can say is no, because some of these women are and some of these young ladies are ruthless. I'm not gonna lie. Some of them do be saying out of pocket stuff. And it used to be like, oh no, no, thank you, or I'm good. Like, but now
Right.
it's like, nah, like you got a big head and big ears, and they're like start roasting you. And that could be really uncomfortable.
Extremely
But
uncomfortable.
yeah, and I'm here with you. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying that it's not the worst they can say is no, because there are some worse things that they can say. But the way that what it's teaching you now is that you're gonna get a million no's before you get that one yes and find that real person that you want to explore life with, and that's okay. You know what I mean? And that's how you learn. That's how you become a better person or just a better man in general. Is just facing rejection, taking it on the head, and be like, all right, cool. At least I
Yeah.
put myself out there. You know, and I love how me and you, how you raised me, right? How you and mom raised me, and I'm thankful to see like your friend group and how you have that friend group that's like, yo, nah, that's not how we roll.
Yeah.
Like that was like with safety, whether it was y'all were going out partying or whether it was like how we treat women in the club or whatever we do.
Yes,
That's
sir.
not. We're gonna have values here, and I think that's one of the things that I implemented within my friend group. And we just had a conversation about this on Thursday, and it was like, bro, we value like people think our friend group is cheesy or soft, but in reality, it's just we care, and that we don't care what anybody else thinks because at the end of the day, we're taking the higher road, And yes, it's uncomfortable. Yes, it's not like a player type of thing, but it's more like more genuine and intentional rather than harmful and ineffective.
Mm,
So I love how we're having this conversation, and I want you to add your piece to this too.
No, no, I think it's hard, coming up. Um, and even when you're 20s, 30s, 40s, you know what I mean? Like, and if you don't have, that person like, should I be the player? Should I be juggling mad women? Should I be um, not supportive and just be kind of this dog? And sometimes, it seems like they get a lot of though that type of person that's being that dog or that player or whatever. I mean, it seems like they get a lot of run, you know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like they get a lot of attention and they do. But ultimately, I feel and what I've seen through my years is that it's not good for them either,
Right,
doing that because you're hurting people.
right.
And, you know, especially right where we live down here,
Mhm.
there's this whole thing about be kind.
Right.
I mean, be kind, be kind. And I think if we lose that, then we erode
Mhm.
our culture, and I think especially for men of color,
Mm,
because that's what you and I are,
right,
is we need to do better.
right,
We need to be better.
definitely.
We need to set the standard. And so, like you were saying, one of the things that me and my boys coming up, you know, it was always about respect.
Hmm.
And it was always about us checking each other and making sure that like we're in line with what we want to do. Don't get me wrong, we look to the right or left sometimes and see that other cat, that seems to be coming up a little bit more and
Hmm.
getting a little bit more love. And it was weird because it was almost like I saw like sometimes, and you and I had this conversation when you were coming up,
Yeah.
was what gets reinforced. So
Hmm.
a lot of times, like when a young woman says no, I had seen cats that would just keep pushing, like, oh, what do you mean no? Come on now, like, and this is just like getting a phone number, for
Right,
example, right?
right.
They're like, no, I don't want to give you one. Come on, man, why don't you want to give me your phone number? This, that, and the other. Like,
Hey,
you want to get with me, and they just keep pouncing and
praying.
yeah, 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 just keep going with it, right? And
Right.
then lo and behold, guess what would happen?
Got a number.
They get the number. So here I
But
am, a
yeah, go ahead.
bystander, and I'm like, oh, so this is how you do it,
Mm,
right? But
mhm.
remember, no means no,
Right.
because this stuff can accidentally slip into sexual situations,
Yep. Yep. Big time.
right? So it's like,
Big time.
again, it just starts when we're young and what we're putting out there, because a lot of times if it's negative, we just create these situations that are just hard to come back from,
Right.
and then we wonder, well, what happened? How'd that happen?
How to get there. Right.
Yeah, yeah, and it started when you were young, nobody taught you or said anything.
Yeah. And I think to that point, when I hear a lot of young ladies talk to me about like, oh well, they were persistent, so I gave them my number, da da da. But what they tell me is like I gave them my number out of my safety, because sometimes the
Mm,
men that are now this day and age where they don't face rejection easily, so people there's like been instances on Twitter and stuff that I see like stories of young women getting beat because they didn't give that man their number or they didn't reciprocate the energy that that man was going into, and it's like us as men, we got to hold each other accountable when we see those things happening and being like, yo, bro, hey, she said no. You know what I mean? And being okay with that and being secure enough with yourself as a man to be like, I got to call out the BS because I got to make sure everybody's safe. And it's weird because it's a weird balance of like, I got to protect myself, but I also got to look out for my community and the people around me because the first thing that we got to do is make sure we have a healthy relationship with ourselves, right? Before we go out trying to have all these romantic relationships or these friendships, is making sure that, hey, am I okay with myself? And then when you get that security within self, you're able to reflect that and take care of others because you did the work. But
right.
what I'm trying to say is like us as men together as a collective, we should be looking out for people that we're around, right? And if we see situations happening that you feel comfortable enough to intervene and be like, yo, hey, she said no, bro. Like it's okay, like it's cool, like and that's the culture that I want to cultivate wherever I'm at,
I think you just made a really good point. And again, it's about your circle, right? And
Yeah.
who's in your tribe. And
Mhm.
like, when you take that L, you know, your boys are supposed to fluff you back up. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
get you back ready to go back in,
You good. Hey,
right?
we good. Hey, we good. Check it
Right,
out.
right, right. I
Yeah.
mean, and an example that you and I love basketball is
Yeah.
you think about like when a player gets fouled, they got to go through the free throw line, and your man, on your team, he misses.
Right.
But what does everybody do?
Dap him up. Hey, next one, baby. Hey, we
They
got the
go
next
back up to the line, just dab them up. Oh, you got this, baby. Let's go. You know what I'm saying?
one.
You good, you good. Then boom, hits the next one, maybe, right? Or even if he missed the second one, they still, all right, dog. So let's get going, right?
Right.
That's a mentality that we need to have, like with our peoples or in a circle. Like if somebody, goes down because they got shot down or whatever, they didn't make that shot because everybody's talking about, right? Go ahead and shoot your shot. But
Right.
shoot your shot, you may miss. And don't be mad.
Yeah.
Just be
Right.
like, maybe that wasn't the right one for me. And then the fellas need to be like, yo, dog, you good, man. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm
Right.
saying? You try again later or with somebody else. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then just leave it alone. But I think if us cats don't support each other in a positive way, as opposed to the negative way to handle this, right, is be like, you get shot down, and then you're like, man, F that B.
Right.
Man, she ain't nothing anyway. Man, see her head, those weaves ain't even right. You know what I'm saying? Or, just going in on them
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to just being like, hey, all right, cool. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Maybe one for me. Because that's respectful.
Right.
It's about respect.
Mm-hmm.
And again, don't get me wrong, fellas. It hurts, right? You got to walk with your tail between your legs. Walking like a dog where the ears just go down here like
Yeah.
walk away. But
For sure. And I think one of the things I want to make clear, I mean, people are probably like laughing and clowning us because they're like, oh, they ain't getting no game, or they ain't know what the da da da. Like the podcast isn't really, we're not really here to teach you how to get mad women. Like that's not our thing. What our thing is to teach you, and hopefully you get from this podcast episode, is that we're here to just talk about how to maybe get more meaningful relationships and how to really respect yourself and respect others around you, because that vibration, that vibe that you give off makes people attracted to you off the bat, right? Like off rip.
I want to make it clear. Let's not get it twisted now. Your boy got to get a little game. When I was coming up, you know what I'm saying? So,
Hey, I mean, but it wasn't the traditional way though.
I got some lessons.
You know what I mean?
It's all good. I mean, I wasn't Mr. Player, but I was.
You know what I mean? No, I hear you, but it's not like.
No, you good.
You know, we're just talking it up because we really want to protect not only the young men, but also protect our young women.
So what's interesting though, man, is like you're saying is really how do you want to be seen in the world, right? And I know for me, like, I feel that people respect me and have respected me over time, especially women, because I've always respected them.
Right.
And I've been in situations where, not a close homeboy, but somebody that I was cool with, a few of them, like they did a girl dirty or whatever, and the girls were like, oh man, Jamal, he's cool, you know what I'm saying, El Prez, and they would attach more to me than they would that individual that was always burning them or doing them wrong or dirty. And then those relationships lasted over time, and this again not romantically per se, but those are quality relationships. And that's what we're supposed to be developing through our life and our walk, is just positive relationships, whether platonic or romantic, business, friendships.
Yeah.
It's about relationships. That's what we should really be working on. And so when we talk about this toxicity, and that's the other thing I was going to say too, just think about the word.
Yeah.
That's not even why do you want to be associated and even using something that's negative and trying to flip it as if though it's a positive or good?
Right.
Toxic. You don't want to be around toxicity or anything toxic. I mean, that's got the,
yeah.
That's
the skull on it.
Ever since. But you don't want the thing with the X's, like, with the skull, like toxic hazard. That means be careful, be aware.
Yeah.
So I think we gotta, as we begin to wind this down, I think one of the things that I'd want to share with young people, especially men and men of color, is do right, be right. It's not always about, how do they say it? Do the right thing with Spike Lee. It's not always about doing things right, but sometimes you just got to do the right thing. And Spike Lee's movies do the right thing, right?
Yeah.
And so really think about what you're doing. You may think that you're not getting as far as your peers, as far as playing this toxic game, but you'll be better off not doing it. And young women, I would say to y'all is don't play the game. Don't feed into this toxicity.
Right.
It's not going to be worth it in the end. So
Yeah.
um,
Like
so I'm glad
learn.
we talked about it. And you said you've been hearing it and seeing it. So I think young men don't play the game. Don't. I think you and I talked about this too. We use it a often. I think is don't do what everybody else is doing because
Right.
they probably ain't doing it right anyway. So
Right.
you know, as my mom would say, if everybody's jumping off a bridge, you gonna jump too.
Right.
Like, so I know peer pressure is tough, but be different. You know what I'm saying? Be different.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, this the stuff that we're talking about, and like I told y'all, this maybe sound corny, it might not sound like we're with the times or whatever, but like we're both saying, it's like people want to be around that energy of like when they feel protected and they feel respected. You know what I mean? So if you're emanating that stuff and you're giving that vibe off, you're gonna attract a lot more people and a lot more people that have like-minded energy that you're gonna be able to click with and connect with versus the ones that you're trying to get and chase after and do all these things and end up being in an unhealthy relationship. You want to attract that good energy from those people, and you want those people to reciprocate what you're feeling. And by doing that, it's being you and being different and being like, hey, you know, I'm just here to have a good time, and I'm here to make sure that everybody else has a good time around me. And you'll be surprised how well that plays out for you if you're in the club setting or right a long time in the club setting, or if you're in the business or your employer. Like people want to be around that energy and want to be around people that are like just calm, cool, collected, and they're different. Like that's what we're really trying to drive home is that. And I like what Dad said was just like be different, and it's okay to be different, and it's okay. I think I had a conversation with my homie D, and we are just saying that you know what, I wish somebody told he told me he's like I wish somebody would have told me that it's okay not to be a hood dude. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like, and
Yeah, yeah.
we want to be those people to let you know that it's okay not to be the dude that has a roster of women and da 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 pick and chew da da da. Like,
Bodies, right? Body.
right? It's not. I mean, everybody wants to talk about it like it's a weight under the like you got a title or whatever. But at the end of the day, hurt people hurt people. You know what I mean? And you're gonna make connections, and we'll talk about it from a spiritual standpoint as well. It's like when we talk about sex and we talk about having multiple bodies, like those things end up maybe tying yourself together to somebody emotionally and physically. And that if you pull that away, you know, it could really hurt that
Yeah.
person unintentionally, even if you didn't mean any harm. But just being wise and mindful of like, hey, I'm not just going to use this woman just for sex, right? And being like, hey, you know what? I really want something a little bit more intimate, more psychological, or more emotional. And that's okay. I mean, it sounds corny, but sometimes people need to hear that it's okay not to have hella bodies, but it's okay to have somebody that you connect with genuinely and really understand and really build. What my dad always says, build an empire. You know, what Jay
Okay.
Gibbs says, build an empire with, because those are special people. And by doing that, what you have to do first is really do the work with yourself and figure out what does that look like for me, and what does that look like being different in society today.
And in closing, real quick too, is I remember I was dating this one girl, and we had finally broken up. It wasn't a bad relationship. It just wasn't really, we weren't edifying each other as way, in a good way as far
Mhm.
as we're going in the same direction and stuff. So I mean, it ended well and amicably. But I remember she came back to me one day and she said to me, she's like, "Do you know that you could have had anything that you wanted from me?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" She's like, "If you wanted clothes, if you wanted jewelry, I would have done anything for you. I would have got that for you." And I was like, "Why do I need that from you?" I'm like, "That's what I needed was, emotional support. And
Mm,
I don't need you to buy me things. I'm a man. You know what I'm saying? I'll go get that myself." But that kind of let me know a little bit like, see, another cat would have taken advantage of that and been like, "Yo, man, my girl got me shoes and she got me clothes and she got me this jewelry," and always trying to get as much as they can from somebody. And that's not what I needed or what I want, and nor should young people. is it's about what can you give?
Mm-hmm.
Love, support, care, kindness. It's not all about the material thing. I know a lot of people think it is, and people feel like they're balling, saying if their girl is, and for a young woman to be working that hard to give her stuff to a guy, anything that he wants and a bunch of it, I think
Mm-hmm.
again, that's toxic. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? It's one thing if it's given out of love and it's reciprocated,
For sure.
but yeah, when she had told me that, I was like, yeah, we definitely
We're not clicking.
yeah, you need to do a little bit more growing. And we
Mhm.
were young, you know what I'm saying? We were in college and
For
whatnot.
sure.
So
Sure.
she probably doesn't feel the same way today. So I
Yeah.
don't want to throw shade like that. But
No, not at all.
it was still just like, wow, I I I I I wouldn't even thought to be like, hey, give me these what I'm saying, clothes, these jeans, these shoes.
Mhm.
That's just, and so I was being different.
Right.
Other cats would have taken that up in a heartbeat. And
Right.
and other cats around me, some of them were, what I'm saying, doing it. And I was like, nah, that ain't right. So anyway, be different. You know what I'm saying? Do the right thing, like Spike Lee said, and get out there and do it positively and diss that toxicity.
Ooh, and this that toxicity. That's what we're calling the episode of this podcast today. Is this that toxicity? Yeah, we out here, man. And if you have any more questions, comments, or concerns about the topic, and you're like, you know what? We danced around it a little bit. We really get into like a whole lot of nitty gritty. We just did like a whole lot of overview. But if there's a specific thing that you want us to talk about more in depth when it comes to whether it's toxic relationships or healthy relationships, let us know. Drop a comment on one of our platforms. We're on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, whatever you're listening or following us on social media. You know what I mean?
Like Facebook, Instagram, Finster. Are we on Finster? We're not on Finster.
What's Finster?
Finster. What is it?
A Finsta is an account that somebody makes. That's the private account, so nobody else sees with all the crazy stuff.
Oh, okay.
We'll do another topic on that. We got you. Hey, don't worry about that, pal. We got you. Don't worry about that.
Yeah. I was like, what's that one right there? Yeah, I don't know about that.
But drop us. What did you say back in the day? Drop us a line. Drop us a comment, man. Let us know what more you want to hear from us. And we're more excited. This is episode 3, man. We just wrapped up episode 3. This is crazy. It's going by pretty quick. It's going by quick.
It is. Cool. Thank y'all, man.
Yeah, thank y'all, man. We out of here, man. Peace.